Ottawa has faced some criticism following the announcement of new zero-emissions vehicle rules, including coming from Alberta's Premier, Danielle Smith. She strongly disagrees with the proposed regulations, calling them destructive and the targets unachievable. She's joining us now to offer more perspective on the issue. Premier, thanks so much for making time for us this afternoon.
You bet, my pleasure.
So when you're looking at these new regulations, the timeline for them, what exactly do you take the greatest issue with? Is it the fact that these rules are being imposed on Canadians, on Albertans, in terms of needing to be, if they want to purchase a new vehicle in 2035 and beyond, it's going to be zero emissions? Or is it more about the, the practicality of reaching that sort of a target by that deadline?
It's unachievable to try to get 20% of vehicles purchased in 2026, which is only 2 years away, be electric vehicles. I can tell you in the Alberta market, of our 3 million or so cars that are registered, less than 0.5% are electric vehicles, and they represent a very small portion right now of the annual vehicle purchase. And there's a few reasons for that. One is that we're a province with vast distances between our municipalities. And people are very concerned about the mileage range. Another is we've had major issues in the past with the electrical grid going down in floods, in fires, and you've seen in other jurisdictions that's normally the first thing to go down in a state of emergency is the electrical grid. I think that's another part. People I know who do have electric vehicles also have a gas as a backup. And number three, our power grid just simply can't manage it. An electric car plug-in uses about 3 times the amount of a typical household's average power in a day. And so if you have more than 1 or 2 of these cars plugged in on the same street, you can blow the transformers. So these are the impracticalities of what we're seeing. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to upgrade the power grid, to make sure that we've got range issues established for the electric vehicles, to make sure that there's fueling stations, plug-in stations. And in our market in particular, I think it's going to be a lot more practical for us to be looking at hydrogen fuel cell vehicles or hydrogen combustion engine vehicles, both of which are not don't have a broad adoption on the market just yet.
Yeah, I want to come back to that in one sec. But in terms of achieving all of that, do you think that just the timeline should be longer, that we shouldn't be talking about 2035 for the 100% zero emissions? We should be pushing that out. Would that help from your perspective?
We have said 2050 should be the target on all of our carbon neutrality measures, and we're confident that 2050 is an achievable target. I think what would happen in the meantime is more people would try hybrid vehicles. Those in cities who have the ability to do electric vehicles would adopt those. It would give us time to develop our hydrogen fuels, hydrogen infrastructure, and find manufacturers who will sell into our market. I mean, we've demonstrated good faith on this. In Alberta, our Edmonton airport bought 100 Toyota Mirai, and the government purchased 3 of them. So that we've already begun to look at how we might be able to add hydrogen to our fleet. We've sponsored pilot projects in Edmonton and Strathcona County for hydrogen buses. We're in the process of converting engines to be dual fuel so that we can have biodiesel as well as hydrogen in our long-haul trucks. And we're rolling out hydrogen fueling stations. So we're making the effort to get to that target, but I can give you 100% assurance, we certainly will not be able to sell 20% of our market into zero emissions vehicles in 2 years. It just can't happen.
What about hybrid? I mean, you mentioned the potential there for hybrid to be sort of a bridge to, electric vehicles. And there is a greater pickup of hybrid in your province than there is electric. So you're looking at 40,000 or so vehicles on the road that are hybrid versus about 10,000 that are electric. And hybrid does fit into this zero emissions plan for the government. That is an option. So do you think that, I mean, if consumers are open to the idea of being hybrid, that could be one way to achieve this?
Well, I think you have to remember that in Canada, there's 1.5 million vehicles a year that are sold. In my province in particular, it's 200,000. So if you're asking me whether 40,000 would be available to be purchased in 2 years' time on such a short time frame, when the entire amount that has been adopted so far since the inception of hybrid vehicles is only 40,000, I think we have to be realistic. One of the things we have to understand is that it's fine to set targets, but targets have to be achievable. And that's why we've set a 2050 target. And there'll be a combination of ways in which we get to it. Part will be electric, part will be hybrid. And I think a large part of the future is going to be hydrogen once those become more available.
Yeah. So how many hydrogen fuel cell vehicles are actually on the road in Alberta? Because when I was looking at the numbers for vehicle registrations, it didn't actually have that category.
Yeah, it's probably 100. It's probably just the ones that were purchased by the Edmonton Airport and by us.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, underscores the point. This is new technology. We've partnered with the federal government on a net zero hydrogen facility called Air Products, and they'll be rolling out hydrogen fueling stations when they're up and running. I think their completion date for their project is 2026. Nikola is another entity, another business that has been talking to us about rolling out hydrogen infrastructure. It's getting more established in California. Last I checked, they had 150 fueling stations. In British Columbia, I think they're approaching 10. So in Western Canada, that's actually going to be the more practical approach. I saw with interest that Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault said that hydrogen vehicles weren't his priority. Well, they're my priority. And that's the reason why these decisions should be left to the provinces. That is part of the reason why we are so frustrated that the federal government continues to take unilateral action in areas which really are provincial jurisdiction. And so we're going to make sure that we have a practical plan to achieve our 2050 target, but we have to be very frank. This is not going to be achievable. And I think what I fear will happen is it's going to result in vehicle rationing, that there aren't going to be enough cars and we're not going to have enough gas-powered vehicles produced for our market, and people are going to be left on waiting lists until it's their turn to buy a car.
Premier, do you have a plan to fight this then?
I have to tell you, I think we've got 8 legal actions lined up against the federal government because the courts have been very clear, and it's annoying that they keep on ignoring what the courts have said. The courts have said very clearly cooperative federalism treats both the provincial and federal governments as equals levels of government. And the federal government cannot take unilateral action in our area of jurisdiction. They do it all the time, and we are going to push back against them every step of the way. We want to achieve emissions reductions. We want to achieve dramatic emissions reductions, but we want to do so in a way that manages to maintain the reliability of our power grid and keeps life affordable for everyday Albertans and Canadians. And unfortunately, that's not what the federal government's doing. And if it takes us pushing back against them, we're prepared to do it.